credit cards. So this could be the last real life Money Monday, but I thought, you know, we'll just put it out there a little bit and just show you that there's opportunity to get your hands on one of these credit cards, fully loaded with a real life coin on it. It's not yet on the crypto exchange, but it will be going on there soon. So you might as well get your hands on it. Now, for the people that take action, and that's what we're going to be talking about this evening, our awesome guest, JP, is going to be telling us all about what it's like to take action, but also what it costs when you don't take action. Yeah, that is what's going to be discussed, because I think that's really important. So the first thing what I want to happen is, just for our live people here, is give it a comment so we know where you're at and who you are, so where you're watching this from. And also just hit the share button, because we're going to be giving away prizes. You know, if you want to get yourself loaded with some coins on here, which you can spend by these coins, can spend on any program, any coaching, any you know, membership, any program that we're doing, you can spend on there. So if you want to be in a chance to win your very own credit card, real life credit card, loaded already with coins, then you just need to share this post and tag at least 10 other people. Yeah, and if you qualify, we'll be showing at the end. If you're still on here by the end, we will be announcing that out there. This could be worth a lot of money to somebody. Yeah, so do put it in the chat, put it in the comments. What's all that banging going on? Is that from your side? Is it? Oh, I don't know what that sounds are.
I can't hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Put it in the chat. Let me see where you're from. Let me know when you've shared it. We'll give you a shout out. And if you've got any questions about how to go from zero to over £20,000 a month in less than 3 years, then here's your chance to ask the questions live. This is going to be the best detail that you're going to get. Will the questions be answered after? Yeah, possibly, maybe. Who knows? But here's your best chance to get it done. So thank you so much for joining us, JP.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so JP has set himself some lofty goals around property investing and building a business and building teams that we're going to get into. So just tell us, JP, like, where did you start off in the whole property game? Like, why property?
Well, two questions then. Why property? One, I just loved architecture and design. So that's where I started in university, 18, knew that I liked drawing at school, told to do architecture, realised that I didn't really like working for other people, but what I actually loved was this idea of property, especially older properties, you know, like grade 2 listed properties, and bringing them back to life. So that's why I loved this idea of property. And then where I started was in buy-to-lets, and thinking that I could just do everything myself and learn how to plaster walls and learn how to screed floors and tile bathrooms, and basically take a hell of a lot of time and spend a hell of a lot of money, and yeah, not getting very far. But that's where I started anyway.
Good. And now we've got some awesome comments, people saying about, I actually forgot that we was looking like this. If you want to know why the hell are we wearing suits, then we might tell you a little bit later. Excuse me. So is that, so back then, is that what you wanted to do? If you think about like what you were thinking back then, did you want to learn how to plaster and screed floors and
no, not at all. So I think, look, Mark, the thing for me is I didn't know what I wanted. That was the key. I had no.
Next question. What is it that you did want at that? Like, why did you get into it then? Like, what you loved the property? I mean,
yeah, I know that I loved architecture, and I loved the study of buildings, whatever that may be. So, like I said, at uni, that was what I chose to do. Came out of it and enjoyed that job for a few years. But I knew that there was, do you know what? Financially, it wasn't a drive. I'm not driven by money, so it wasn't that. It was more acquiring my own properties that I liked the idea of. I don't know why. Like I said, I wasn't clear on any goals. I wasn't clear on anything. It was just what seemed the next step. And I knew that property was a good way to, you know, grow up a little bit, and a good way to maybe get some wealth generated. But I don't think I even mentioned those two words in all of my 20s, like wealth generation or pension, or that didn't even enter my head. So to be quite honest, I think I was just acting on impulse. And because I knew about it, it seemed the next thing to do.
Yeah. So that's the interesting thing about these panel discussions. It's about hooking in and getting into the mind of the, like people like you, JP, of like what makes you tick, what made you make some moves, what made you took action, and what like made you not take action, what gets you the results. Yeah, so I think that'll be useful. I mean, put it in the comments, guys, if that's useful for you to hook in, understand what's going on in people's mind, so you can see what other people's journeys are like. And also, please say, do you think Real Life Money Monday should continue, the brand of Real Life Money Monday, or would you like it to change to Real Life Game Changers? And we actually have a load of people on here like JP who have changed the game in a certain industry or something that they've achieved, or just something in some way where they've changed the game. Could be in their life, their relationship, their money, their business, or whatever. So please do let me know in the comments what you think in that respect. Yeah, so you say you're not driven by money, but then you started saying, like, I want to create wealth. So how are you not driven by money?
No, well, I'm definitely not driven by money. And I think when I said creating wealth, that seemed, it's certainly in my 20s. Like, I'm 36 now, so I've got a different idea now than when I was 26. But I was driven by progress. That's what was driving me. And to acquire a house, a buy-to-let, seemed like really good progress. It certainly wasn't the driving factor of money. And to be honest, I'm still not driven by money now, because out of a buy-to-let, the best you might do is 300 quid a month.
Yeah, but let's look at that, because so if it wasn't the money, then what was it? Was it because you wanted to take care of a tenant?
No, it wasn't. Providing good quality homes. No, it wasn't that either. It was a really interesting question. Looking back, it was allowing me to get hands-on design-wise and to feel that ownership of my first property, let's say. And I'm sort of 10 years ago now. But it was also this drive for progress or achievement that since I've done a lot of personal development, I knew that, actually, that's what's driving me, whether it's good or bad. It's this sense of JP's doing better, or, I've achieved something. I always seem to have to achieve more and more and more. So that's actually, as I look back, what was driving this sort of, 100% drive and 100% no idea, because I was all time just trying to achieve something.
I get you.
I have a clue what it was.
And I think someone who's playing a game at such a higher level now in yourself, I think it's good to ask these questions, and it's easier for you to answer them because of the progress that you've made. And I think it's good for people to understand, like, is it fair? That like creeps up on me like a surprise. Is it fair to say that maybe you got into property just because of the persona of like owning property is a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a well-known sort of status thing. JP's got 2 properties. If I heard someone say that in my 20s, the ego gets stroked a little bit, and that's what we think life is about when we're at that sort of certainly I do, and I said it today to my team, is men generally are emotionally a little bit behind women. So we're still stroking the ego late into our 20s, whereas women a lot of the time, generalizing, but a lot of the time get it a lot sooner. Now I still playing to my ego, perhaps, that I'll buy a house because that sounds good. It's not a bad thing. And I know that financially it's only going to lead to, some security, which I think is an element of that. But it also strokes the ego a bit, doesn't it?
Interesting you say that, because a lot of people, they want to get on the housing ladder residentially because it does feel good to say, I'm a homeowner. Yeah, and I have been there, and now I rent where I live, and I own where I rent. Yeah, which was a concept I first heard from Grant Cardone. Which, by the way, someone tag him in this because I'm still chasing the guy to get him on here. We do want Grant on here. And by the way, if he says that he wants to film the Money Monday or the Game Changers, whatever it is, from his office in Florida, I will literally fly there. So do tell him that. Do tag him and put that in the comments when you do that on here. But that's what he said. Yeah, but like you said, but and also even now today, I've sold more properties than I own. Which again is something to say like, oh, I built a portfolio of X. What about when I start selling it? Yeah. Now, does it make it okay because I know that I'm going to be, buying land and building houses on it, which again I'm going to sell, so it's not like I own them again. Or hotels and resorts. Does that make it easier for me to talk about it now? And it's just a question of why people go into business in the first place. Is it because I want to say I'm a business owner when really you're just self-employed and you've got like a job with perks, so to say, because you're the boss. And you can do you think you can do whatever you want, but there's probably more constraints in a self-employed business. Because let's face it, most people, they're not in an equity building business. They don't build a business with equity in it, and resources and assets, which I like, to call people, not assets. Yeah, but like with people in it who I could actually run the thing without me all the time. So let's go beyond that a little bit and talk about your strategies. What strategies would you like to hear, guys? Between us, we've got some service accommodation, there's some rent to rent in there, there's some ownership, there's buy to lets, there's flipping, there's HMOs, there's studios, there's apartments, there's building new sites. That's what we've got between us all. So what's your flavor? Put it in the chat here, what it is that you're doing or what is it that you're looking to do. So you started out with a buy to let then, JP. What happened next? What did you go on and do?
Yeah, it was buy to lets. We did a handful as a family, me, my mum, my sister. Wasn't at all a business. It was just sort of ad hoc. So we had a little bit of experience with a handful of buy to lets. But here's what happened, Mark, is I got to a point where I put it in the bio. People were going, JP knows what he's doing about property. Let's speak to JP. He's doing buy to lets properties all the time. My ego was like up here. My wealth was down here. I very quickly realized, and this was about 5 years ago, that something's got to change. Like this idea that JP knows what he's doing in property 5 years ago, I was like, shit, I ain't got nothing. I've literally got a couple of buy-to-lets which sometimes cost me more than what I get in. So I very, very quickly decided that here's what I said to myself, let's pretend I know nothing about property. It's day one. And I remember having this physical out in open conversation with myself. I know nothing because whatever I think I know, I'm not getting the results that I want. So let's go back to ground zero with it.
JP, is something happened? Where's your microphone? Is your hands on your thing or something?
I'm innocent. What's happened?
I don't know. It's as if something's like rubbing over the microphone. You're like stroking your laptop or something?
Don't give me your dodgy ideas. Okay, I'll try not to hit the desk. So what I said was go back to zero, and I learned very quickly about HMOs. And I almost was about to take the plunge with what I was learning from all the material on YouTube and podcasts and whatnot about HMOs. But this is 2017.
Okay, great.
So 2017, 2018, and I also touched on serviced accommodation, and I thought, well, this kind of plays into what I'm doing, because at that time I was in an event manager role. So I was traveling the country with brands like Samsung, staying in Premier Inns for a month at a time. So that kind of really used to peeve me off a little bit, because I'd have to eat in the Premier Inn restaurant every night, and that's not great at the best of times. Breakfast is good though. So I would be saying to my office, can you get me an apartment? And they'd be like, what do you mean? I was like an Airbnb. Could I stay in an Airbnb for a month? And they were like, yeah, sound. If it works out the same cost, that's not a problem. So when I came across a podcast that talks about serviced accommodation, for me, that was a no-brainer. And I'd spoke to a couple of people in my network, not property, but just sort of friends network. There's one person that was doing this, and I kind of picked their brain, learned all about it, as well as all these podcasts and stuff. And then my strategy, and my single-minded strategy, became serviced accommodation. And that's where, for us, or for me, you know, getting into property, what I call seriously, about 4 years ago, I just made that decision. Serviced accommodation, let's focus. Let's pause HMOs for now, because at that time I did have a few buy-to-let tenants, and I wasn't a major fan of tenants. And I thought I could probably build out some systems that allow me to deal with guests, but they're a lot more shorter term, of course, than tenants. So those are longevity problems. Here's what my mind was saying. I can build them out with a service accommodation business. So that's how I kind of found my path, through no fault other than just podcasts, YouTube, books, and liking and linking the idea of what I was doing, staying in Premier Inns for a month at a time, to, oh wow, you know, I could do this because I get it, or at least I get it as a consumer. And that was where we decided, at that point there was two of us and now there's just me, but we decided to experiment with a whole, like you do when you start, a whole wealth of different bits and bobs: sourcing, HMOs, serviced accommodation. So a good couple of months we were just exploring all of those avenues before I knuckled down, single-minded focus into what I do now, which is serviced accommodation.
Yeah, awesome. So like, how did you make that happen?
Other than research and asking lots of people lots of questions and networking, that was key. Going to things like local PIN meetings, and, you know, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, anywhere. I drive around to different cities, to different PIN meetings. Ultimately got on the phone and just started speaking to agents. And I'm the worst salesman you've ever met in your life. I was literally almost apologizing on the phone and accepting a no before they'd even spoke. I was like, it's okay, don't worry, like, I know I'm bothering you, you know. And then I just got one agent that said, yeah, come and view it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I didn't have a clue. It's funny what you realize you don't know until you start doing something. But the act of doing it made me realize what I needed to work on. And it was that bit. This is the start of 2019. I was petrified of the phone. I hated it. I hated speaking to people that I thought, I'm just pestering them. They don't want to hear me, you know. Can I rent your place and can I come and do a viewing? But by the way, I need to, you know, get this out in the open that I'm doing service accommodation. And it was horrible. But looking back, I cut all my other ties. I stopped doing events and I was all in. And I thought, if I don't pick up the phone, nothing's going to happen. And that was brilliant now looking back, but petrifying when I was doing it.
So like, so 2019, you decided to go all in, you were petrified. What happened then? And what did you do? Like, how did you keep moving forward then? Yeah,
well, I knew that we had a bit of money in the bank and we could probably raise a bit of cash if we needed to, whether it was 0% credit cards, money in my bank, money in my then business partner's bank, and we'd committed to going in together. And I thought, well, if it takes, let's say, $7,000 per unit, if I do a rent-to-rent model, then we could probably manage, you know, a good few units. Now, what we didn't account for is we were also still on the HMO road as well. So we purchased our first house and we're starting to do a soft renovation. So not a back to brick renovation, but more of a make it compliant, and new bits and bobs, decor throughout, fire doors, fire alarms, panels, all of that stuff. And by the end of it, we'd actually spent quite a lot of money purchasing soft refurb. So as we're closing in on our first deal, rent to rent, we were also completing on our first purchase for HMO. And at the 11th hour, I remember saying to my then business partner, what are we doing? why are we even thinking about HMO? Well, I know it's now HMO compliant, but this would work really well as a serviced accommodation house. And to this day, that house is my best performing unit. I think it's actually just moved into second place by another one, but it's been one of my top performing units since the day we launched, and that was intended for a HMO. So I guess it was just chaos for the first 2 years, because of course after a couple of units, I remember doing a little bit of sourcing for some of our network as well. So I was not only now going through a deal on our first HMO, I had this first rent to rent that was just dragging its feet to sign contracts and go through. And then I was fishing for other people to source so I could raise some cash to buy more deals. So in all honesty, if I look back to 2019, it was absolute chaos. It was just carnage.
Okay, so that was going on, and so I know you came across and you came to a 2-day event that Real Life was holding like towards the end of 2000. I think it was September 2019. So how did you hear about Real Life? How did you come across that?
Yeah, great question. So I heard about it. Do you know what? I'd gone on a course with Simon Zucchi, and I'd done a 3-day event there through a then sourcing client who invited me. So I'm at this event and I meet this chap who lives abroad, who mentioned you and Trisha. And he said, I'm sat next to these two guys at a Tony Robbins event, and like they're doing some crazy HMO stuff. And he goes, they've got an event in a couple of months and I'm going to fly back over for it. So he was like, why don't you come down? And I was like, geez, if you're flying halfway around the world to go, and this thing's in London, I've got a 4-hour train. That's not really a good excuse now, because you're like taking a 10-hour flight. I said, yeah, I'll do it. And before I know it, I'm meeting you and the rest of the team in a hotel in Heathrow or by Heathrow in London. And, you know, this 2-day event, I'm like, where am I? What am I doing here? But I'm here. And that's how a lot of the networking was. Again, back in 2019, it was just get there to whatever you're doing. Just turn up and figure it out as you go.
Yeah, and then you actually became a part of the community. And how did that go? Because we at the action stage, or we're at the inaction stage, or both? I'm not sure.
Yes.
By this time, going into the end of 2019.
So 2019, looking back now, we had our first 2. So just to bring it full circle, that first deal that I was getting close to never happened until 2020 April. So January it was, April 2020. One in January, one in April 2020. So my actual first 2 deals came in September 2019. I got 2 deals in Leamington Spa. And at that point is when I did the course with Real Life. And then I was like,
I think you're touching your microphone again.
It must be this. I got like a mat to set the table. I'll hang back here. So I went to Real Life September 2019, and I thought, okay, this is great. There's a lot of HMO content. That's where I was with it. But I thought, what a good bunch of people that I could just be around. So I spoke to, again, my business partner then, and had a little bit of persuading to do. And we signed up because I thought this course that's called PWT sounds really good. I'd like to go on it, but more so, I just like to be around good people. So it was the network. That's what I signed up for. And then, so I was kind of at the action / chaos / busy fool stage. And it was brilliant and it was hell at the same time. And then, of course, 2020 happened and everything shut down, didn't it? So I remember, were scaling sort of frantically, trying to scale our serviced accommodation and not sort of scattergun approach with any deal. But we were meeting landlords and agents and just getting on the phone, doing viewings, trying to source, because by now I had a list of sourcing clients that wanted deals. and I wanted more deals. And then I had this house, which is actually in Doncaster, the one that was going to be a HMO, is now a fully fledged SA, and it was doing well. So I'm like, okay, this system works. And we're now in 2 cities and it's working. So I'm like, okay, cities and locations is not really a problem for us. But then the pandemic hit, didn't it? So I traveled a bit in January for 2 months abroad. So January, I get back mid-February. I already knew it was coming because I went over that part of the world where we were wearing masks, and then COVID hit. So that kind of slowed my real life journey down, other than the Monday night networking. So I would show up on a Monday night, and to be honest, I would get a lot of resistance from my then business partner. And equally, it was chaos. So we were all over, if you know what I mean. There was resistance. There was like, we need to do this. The pandemic's coming. Yeah, it's crazy looking back.
Yeah, a lot of people panicked and wasn't sure which direction to go in. Yeah, so let's fast forward to then 21, when it managed to open up, and you didn't actually come to the PWT, the first one that was, because that's a live event. And there's no way we would turn that virtual, and obviously you know why. Yeah, but you didn't come to that one, so why not?
I remember why, and we were chopping a tree down in Bath because we'd acquired our second unit in Bath, and I couldn't get someone to do the garden for less than like $5,000. So me and Emma, my missus, were just doing weekends there. And I remember getting a call from real life, and it's like, yeah, this PWT is on. And I was like, oh my God. I think it was in August. Was it in August? Or summer? Or July, maybe?
July.
It was in July, right? So I'd just taken on, I think we'd taken on 3 or 4 new units. Oh no, we had Manchester as well. So we took on 4 units in Manchester, a unit in Bath, and a unit somewhere else. I can't remember. So I had 6 units going live. And I remember being close to meltdown. And the thought of stacking on learning and headspace was just non-existent. So I remember saying to the girl who phoned me up, there's just no chance I can do it. It have to be the next one. Now, in a way, I'm so pleased and grateful that it was the next one, because PWT is magic. It's mind-blowing, game-changing, life-changing. And you need energy, I think, when you show up. And I would have probably shown up on a stretcher, being exhausted, if I was honest, because I was still doing everything myself. And that was the key.
So you said like you was close to meltdown. You had all these sites that were going live, and you weren't sure about stacking learning on top. Now, when you actually went there, was it learning?
It's really difficult, isn't it? Did I learn a lot?
But was it learning? And my next question is like, was it then what you expected?
No, it wasn't what I expected. I would say I learned a lot, but it's not education, it's an experience. I think that's how I would sum up PWT. It's an experience. And you know, what did I say to you about getting the 4 days to be there? It was really difficult for me to block out 4 entire days and be off radar for 4 entire days.
But did you, I mean, obviously I know when someone says that to me, my understanding is, well, you need it more than someone else who is okay booking those 4 days. But
Yeah.
but did you see it that way? Or like, what was your view of it?
Going in, no, absolutely not. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm just going to create a backlog, which I actually did for a while. But coming out of PWT 4 days after, no, it was like game face on. It was just a different person. I think I walked out there, just any ideas that I was flirting with, and this is what happens in my brain. I get the idea and I don't always implement it because I'm unsure, like many people would probably do, right? We get it and we know the answer and we don't implement it. But I had also this other stuff, which was like, I had no idea this existed. And now if I put that together, then bang, we can resolve all of this.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of wonderful experiences that allow people to systemize business, create business, grow business, scale business, all in the property arena, but also good for life and team building and leadership as well, which are all the things that are required to win. So without, you know, any in particular process or activity that we did, what would you say that it did for you and like what you got out of it? You said it changed you. Like how?
Yeah, well, it changed me. So I've grown up, I guess, and you don't know these things until you test them, right? But I've grown up thinking, you know, I got pretty cushy life, you know, growing up, and the support of my family and everything's been fantastic. So
You're on the mic. You're on the mic again, I think.
So strange. It's maybe really sensitive. You sure it's not you? You like winding me up? Okay, so
it's your big watch hitting the microphone.
My watch. Don't worry, it's not a Rolex. What was I saying? So I didn't know what I didn't know. And when I was in that room, or when I was on the experience, I realized that I wasn't backing myself. And for whatever reason, whether it be childhood or upbringing or school or young adult, whatever, you know, probably a mix of everything, I just wasn't backing myself. It was so bizarre. It was almost like I can go 90% of the way and then I retract. And I retract because I'm scared of going 100% of the way and getting what I know I can get. And that was what I got out of PWT, as well as a whole host of zillion other things. But that fundamental thing was what changed everything. So, do you know what? I didn't know I needed that going in. That's the weird thing. I thought it was pretty cushy going in.
I like what you said, because before what you said is like, it's not education what people think is education, but it's an experience. And obviously, one thing that anybody who's done anything with real life understands is like experience is really the only teacher. Right? You're not going to read a book or watch someone ride a bike and be able to ride a bike. Like you got to get on the bike. Yeah. So you also said it tested you. Yeah. So what else did it test you in, other than, you know, your ability to go 100%? Like, what else did it test you in, and what else came out of it?
Well, by this point, so let's set some context, because we're 21 November by now, were we? I think October, November. So I'd built up my portfolio of properties to like 12 properties, and I had a management company by then. So we were doing some good numbers, you know, like this number that we put here, 20K a month. It's like, yeah, we were doing these numbers, but it was chaos. And I was in the business. And what I got out of it, from a practical sense, is how to create an equity business and how to run businesses, and not be the central hub person that if I go on holiday, everything melts down. Now, don't get me wrong, that change, it happens in there over the 4-day period, but it is taking time to implement. But you only got to implement those changes once. And once you implement, you know, what you've learned, for me, it's restructured my entire setup, my entire businesses. So I never struggled with the drive to get going and take action. What I struggled with, little did I know, was the self-belief to go 100% all in. And also, I guess, the knowledge of what am I doing? Why don't I do it slightly differently to give myself what I actually started this whole thing for, which is more time freedom. Everyone talks about financial freedom. For me, like I said, money doesn't motivate me. It was always about, yeah, I need enough money to just pay the bills, like what, 2.5 grand a month, 3 grand a month. But I want time freedom. And that's where I realized, damn, I've created this money. I've got no time, you know? So I'm committed and driven to working hard, but I've got to balance this time thing a bit better. So that's what I got out of PWT is, okay, you know, we said it on one of our calls because we have weekly calls, you know, you and me. And if I'm the leader of a certain project, if a problem happens in that project, they're going to come to me. So if I've got 10 things happening at once and there's a problem in each one, because it's property and that does happen, they all come to me. I haven't got time freedom. So I've got to start implementing leaders in my businesses, putting leaders in place so the heat goes on to them. And because they're doing this little bit, that's fine. They can handle that little bit. And then that frees me up to have, you know, time to do whatever I want. Look at bigger buildings, play the piano, sit and watch the Masters on a Sunday, whatever it is. And that was what I got from PWT above, you know, that limitation that I'd set myself.
And I love the fair point that you're making is that so most people, they get sucked into something to make extra money or create this financial freedom or whatever it is that they label it as, and don't really achieve that. Like they think it's all about the hustle and all about the grind, and like you got to do that for many years, and there's no other way around it. And like even there's some people online who are very successful or at least perceived as successful that say that that's what it's all about. The bit they miss out is how do I enjoy it along the way?
Mm.
Like how do I make the journey aspect of it something that I am actually going to stick at? Because why would someone stick at something that is like a pain in the ass? And by the way, like there's a lot of resilient people out there that will stick at something for 3, 5 years, even longer, with it still not working out. Like there's still no way out at the end. And I know that meant a lot to you. And I know you joined the Real Life Partner Program. You wanted to play at the highest level around the people who are playing big games. So like, what's that allowed you to go on and do? What's life looking like? What's business looking like now? And also, where's it going?
Yeah, so business now, we've got, there's 5 of us in our team now. So I got a wonderful team that all kind of fit into a structure that you've created and that we talked about on PWT, which is mission, goal, outcome, target, schedule. So we call it MGOT. And we're all, you know, in a team working towards one mission. And that's just fantastic because it allows us to own each part of our, you know, day or week or month or outcome, quarters or whatever we split the pie up into. We all feel like we individually are taking care of certain bits of the business. So business right now for us, there's 5. There's going to be 6 very soon as I onboard a full-time project manager. You know, we've got a management company, which is PureStay Management, that's looking after 20 plus properties now. We're just about to launch at the end of April to the wider public, if you like. That's just from people that have come into my network that we're managing for. And of course, we manage our own properties. We've got 15 now of our own properties. So I got 5 businesses. We're doing little bits in each business. So service accommodation, and I've got service accommodation management business. We've got a source and setup business. So we do it for third parties where we actually give it the PureStay way. And we're just starting in developments. So the next step for us, which is where we're at Q2, as in, so we're about 11 days in, is to look at big projects. So guest houses, hotels, basically C1 use class buildings that we can refurb back to brick, re-portion up the rooms and create perhaps a bunch of apartments. So let's say 10 2-bed apartments, and then run that as a PureStay hotel in one of our sort of 10 locations. We're trying to whittle down to a location that we stick to. and at the minute we're probably shortlisted on 3. So yeah, that's the next step. And I suppose for us, development moves from a rent-to-rent model into a 100% ownership model, where we can apply value to an asset, you know, turn it into something, and then we could cash out there if we wanted to, but we're then going to run it within PureStay management. So it's like an ecosystem; it all feeds itself. I'm really excited. We've got a goal of 5 million in owned assets by the end of this year. So, you know, we've got to get cracking because there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of unknowns. But in the same way that I did in 2019, all of the unknowns kind of get answered when we're taking action, when you're riding the bike. So that's where I'm at now.
Exactly. And today was day 1 of implementation week, which is something we do in a partner program as well, because it's all about implementing. So how excited are you to see what the results are by the end of just this 1 week?
Yeah, so that's one thing I didn't mention. So we're doing implementation week as part of what we're now calling, was the inner circle, and that's the partner program. So it's a bunch of, what would you call it, Mike? Sort of people that are serious. It's not people that have got a ton of property or years of experience. It's different levels. It's just people that are serious about it, and we all get together on a sort of weekly, if not 3 a month basis. It's been so valuable to all of us, because there's times where you just want to rip your hair out with what's gone on in your day, and then you come back and we do a call, and it just kind of levels everything. And we might just take ourselves out of our head for 2 or 3 hours. And this week, you mentioned it, implementation week. So it's just reviewing everything, isn't it? You've asked us to review everything, and we're going to sort of 10x the business to, you know, grow it out even more and stretch it, which is a term that we've been throwing around. Let's stretch. What's the stretched version of our goals and where we want to go? And the key to all of this is it's not just about stacking more money. It's not stacking more workload, because I'm still working like a dog now, but I know I can see the light, and each bit we implement, it clears up, and it's like less and less my involvement. But yeah, I'm excited this week. We're together Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with the group and yourself, and it's about pushing us to that next level the right way. That's the difference. Non-chaotic.
Beautiful, beautiful. So before we wrap this up, I've got one really important major question I must ask. But like before I do that, like, you know, if there are people out there who's got a bit of an itch, like there's got to be something more, or maybe there's something they want to do in life, maybe there's some action to take, maybe there's some risk to take. Like, what is your advice to those people who may be similar to you? Because I think that's what best advice you can give. You know, someone who's similar to you, it's like, you know, not too bad, you know, the life's okay. Like, but they know they got more, they know they can add more value, they know they can help more people. They're supposed to go out there and do something wild and special. Like, what advice do you have to those people?
There's a ton of people like this, because I certainly was that person as well. If you have an element, I suppose, of not achieving your potential, and that's the key, that's where I knew something was wrong. Kept saying, I'm better than this. What am I doing? I'm better than this. And it was becoming a frustration where I couldn't ignore it anymore. The first thing is do something about it, and do something that you love, that is long term, and get ready to go on a roller coaster and strap yourself in, you know, and have the drive, have a reason that is bigger than yourself and worth sticking around for, so that when, you know, stuff gets tough, things go wrong, and you find yourself having maybe a sleepless night, that the drive is there to sort it out. Find something, or find a reason to do something about it. You know, if that particular thing happens to be property or, you know, business, then go and find someone who is already doing it and get close to them and network with them and get educated, or come and experience things, whether it's real life or other experiences, even if it's business meetings, networking, just do something about it, because time is not waiting around for no one. So that's the thing that got me, is the action, the sort of the frustration. I'll never forget that feeling of, I am better than this. What am I doing? And I was 31 at that point. And everything was just really, it was good for 3 years and then it'd fall apart. I was just running this system of like getting almost there to happiness and then just retracting, whether it was relationships, business, finances, whatever. And it's just bizarre. So if you're anywhere self-reflecting and thinking you want more, you just got to do something about it. That's all I can say. That's it.
Nice, good advice. I love it. There's one super important question that we cannot ever let people forget, and I will ask you that in a moment. But before I do, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for coming on this panel and discussing your journey and the ins and outs of what it takes, and kind of like pull the curtain back on your mindset and like those little hurdles were, or big hurdles, however you perceive them along the way. Were it's been very bad. We always say like, if we just change one person's trajectory, that what they're on, it's been worth it. I think many people will see this, listen to this on all of our mediums, to make sure that you do continue to keep sharing this, guys. Thank you so much, JP, for being with us on this panel.
Top man, I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for watching.
Good. And so here's a question. This is how we wrap it up. Yeah, because there's one thing that we can never, ever, ever let people forget. And that is that they must do the right thing for the right reason. Now, why is that?
Because it's the only way to find your true potential.
Yes, that will do. That will do. I'll take that. That was
to reach your true potential, or something like that.
Discover.
That's it. You got
true potential. Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you so much. You heard it here, guys, from JP. Do the right thing for the right reason, because that is the only way you're going to discover your true potential.